Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call this meeting to order. We don't need a roll call, but I do want to introduce Adam Boland. Adam too, our new Director of Finance and Treasurer, and welcome, Adam. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Max?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a pecuniary interest in agenda item I, brackets 2, under bylaws. Bylaw number 21-65, the third reading of the Simpson Drain reassessment. Resolution 12, pages 160-161. Reason being, the Simpson Drain runs through our property. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Max. So noted. The minutes from October 21st, any errors or omissions? Seeing none, mover and seconder of the minutes. Serna and Moore, all in favor? Carried. Next, we have a public meeting. The purpose of this public meeting is to change the zoning to Agriculture A2 zone and Agriculture A4 zone. Applicant is Patricia Zimmer, and agent is Don Ferguson. Property part lot 11 and 12, concession 8, geographic township Malahide, known as 49408 Glencoe Line. So I need a mover and seconder. The public meeting concerning the zoning bylaw amendment application of Patricia Zimmer relating to property located at lot 11 and 12, concession 8, be called to order at 7:34. Winder, Jaguar, all in favor? Carried. So, are we done? Don is over here. Don, can you give us an outline of the application, please?
Sure. Good evening. The application is in support of a condition.
Can you turn your volume up, Don? We can hardly hear you.
Sorry. Is that any better?
A little.
Sorry. This application is in support of a land division committee application that was made and approved on a conditional basis. The farmland is retained and will have a new zoning to prohibit any new residential. And the severed residential dwelling will have a new zoning associated with a small lot, being the A4 small lot agricultural zone. The report from your staff was comprehensive, and I rely upon that report. It was complete and accurate as far as I'm concerned. And this is simply a zoning request to comply with the terms of the condition of the severance application that was approved. Are there any questions?
Whether it turned off by itself, I have no idea, but it was. Anyway. Thank you, Don. Next, we have a presentation by Tracy McQueen of McQueen and Galloway Associates, presenting the Parks and Rec Master Plan. There's Tracy. Welcome, Tracy.
Good evening.
You're gonna have to turn your volume up.
Terry Allman's with us as well tonight. Terry Allman is with us tonight as well, and he's on the screen as well. So great to be back in front of you. I'm sorry we're not still face to face, but I just wanted to say a special thanks to this township staff and council and community. They've been really, really great to work with on this project. The passion for their facilities and
I'm gonna interrupt
sports
you,
and
Tracy.
trails and
Really having
programs,
struggling to hear you.
especially the beach and the pier. I'm at 100%. Terry, would you like to see if your volume comes up a little bit clearer than me?
Good evening, everyone. This is just a volume check.
You're good. Tracy, we have a hard time.
Okay, I'll let Terry take over.
Okay, good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could ask the clerk to enable me to share the screen. I just have a short little PowerPoint presentation that I would like to walk through.
He wants to share it, yeah. Yeah. Right.
You can go ahead and share your screen now.
Okay, I'm just trying to get to there. Okay, thank you once again, Mr. Mayor, members of council and staff that are present at this
Can
meeting.
you bump your volume up again there, Terry?
Oh, okay. I'll just speak a little louder. So our presentation, of course, is to do with the Comprehensive Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and we have a short presentation in support of the staff report PW-21-57. So our presentation will include four slides that will look at a review of the process from the beginning, some of the highlights inside the master plan that we feel are should be shared, what we heard from residents when we distributed the draft master plan for comment, and then our next steps for consideration. So how we got here, our process started actually some 6 months ago, and the bulk of the heavy lifting was done during the research, data analytics, and stakeholder input stage. At that point, we had the collective wisdom of members of council, staff at the township, as well as identified community leaders and stakeholders that provided us with the benefit of their insights as to how recreation and park services in the township should proceed. Like I said, that was the bulk of the heavy lifting. That information was aggregated into a situational analysis report, which, as a reminder, was presented to council on August 12th for their approval. And that report didn't contain any recommendations or actions, but did include a series of findings. And then also from that report, we were able to glean some evolving strategic themes around where the master plan, or at least the draft master plan, would lead us. So from there, we developed the draft master plan with some 50 recommendations and the corresponding rationale behind those recommendations. We first tabled it on September 12th for council's review, and then to also receive council comments, which we did and we greatly appreciate. On October 7th, then the draft master plan as amended by council was approved to be distributed for public input. And that has brought us to this point tonight in presenting the final master plan. How's my volume? Still okay?
You're good.
Thank you. So it's not our intent to certainly go through the fulsome master plan document or the 50 recommendations. We just wanted to provide some highlights. So we have in past applauded this council and past council's efforts, as well as staff efforts in the variety of joint ventures, strategic alliances, partnership agreements they have pulled together with so many organizations across the township. So we think that approach will continue to serve the township very well, not only for the life of this plan, but beyond. And we think there's opportunity for you to continue to engage other organizations and individuals to partner with you. We note that there is an opportunity to increase activity rates or participant rates in Parks and Recreation for your residents with some targeted marketing that captures not just what programs and services and amenities the township has, but rather what all organizations in the township has, and that will lead to better awareness and in turn better participation activity rates. We think there's great opportunity to increase your facility utilization through a more proactive community development approach. So we would see by specifically encouraging and promoting individuals and organizations to come forward to provide parks and recreation services at your facilities, that it will lead to, of course, better activity rates, better utilization of your facilities, and of course the offsetting revenues that comes with increased facility use. We note that the township, unlike most other townships going through a master plan, you don't have any big ticket financial items to worry about inside this plan. Undoubtedly, there are some recommendations that contain either resource implications to staff. There could be some operating budget implications on some of the recommendations, and certainly some capital contributions to address some of the recommendations. But by and large, you are, as a municipality, well set up with your existing large-scale parks and recreation asset base to manage through the next 10 years. We think you're also poised to create a meaningful asset management plan. You currently allocate monies on an annual basis to all of your asset categories, which continues to maintain and revitalize those assets. And we think by moving to a 10-year view instead of a 3-year forecast, that it will provide future councils a better idea of, or a longer term idea of, what capital items, bigger capital items are coming down the pike. So it gives you more time to be able to fund the necessary repairs or replacements that you will inevitably face. And lastly, when we looked at Port Bruce from a Parks and Recreation standpoint, it was a little bit more complex. So our master plan does include a series of actions and things that the township could invest in order to enhance Parks and Recreation services down there. But we believe because of the complexity of the area and the interface between vehicles, cyclists, and pedestrians, there really needs to be a site-specific master plan for that Port Bruce area, and that master plan be based on a council vision on what they believe the role of that waterfront area should take. What we heard back, so when we released the draft master plan for public comment, we did have a limited number of respondents to the survey. We have no way of knowing how many people actually reviewed the report from the township website, but we do know that 9 people completed the survey that was associated with the plan. And there was a resident who submitted his own quite detailed commentary on both the situational analysis report as well as the draft Parks and Recreation master plan. So we appreciate certainly all of that input from residents. We did not want to underrepresent any of their comments. This is just a few of the comments that we've picked up, which is why we've tabled the full correspondence received by the one resident that responded in detail, and then council can also review the summary of all of the survey responses as well. So in our memorandum to the CAO, responding to the community feedback, the one thing we want to say is that that council shouldn't view the number of respondents as a lack of interest in Parks and Recreation services. We tend to think it's a signal of contentment. That people are generally content with Parks and Recreation services in the township. And as you can appreciate, residents don't tend to write into the mayor and council members when they're content. So if there was something that was a hot button item that wasn't addressed, we would certainly hear about it. So by and large, we think the master plan was well received by the people who reviewed it. And with the exception of one possible recommendation, we submit that the draft master plan, as it was circulated, doesn't need to be altered. There wasn't any compelling information to change any of the existing recommendations. And when the time is appropriate, Mr. Mayor, I am happy to speak more broadly to the proposed recommendation that we forwarded to the CAO, and it can be found on page 137 of your agenda document. And it really is just about better positioning the township and working with the county on a broader active transportation network, as well as to serve the township well in future subdivision applications. And our last slide and next step consideration, which mirror somewhat the recommendations in the staff report, is that we are here to essentially get council confirmation of an approval of the Parks and Recreation master plan in principle. And then we would, of course, encourage the support of staff in developing their work plans on an annual basis that integrate the short, medium, and long-term recommendations that are contained within the implementation plan. Those would of course come to you with the resource implications or whether or not there's any operating budget impacts or capital budget impacts. We also like to suggest that that a 5-year master plan report card be prepared by staff to share with the future council on how things are going with regard to progress on the overall master plan. And then, of course, to revisit the master plan in another 10 years. We know that trends change. We know that we've gone through a recent, well, we're still in the pandemic stages. We know that that's had a major impact on indoor activities, especially organized sport and fitness indoor activities. And there's been a much greater uptake in outdoor unstructured activities. And at this point, it'll be subject to monitoring because we won't know if that will be a trend that will continue or whether or not after a few years that it will revert back to pre-pandemic time. So again, all the more reason to look at things in a 5-year mid time horizon cycle and then again in 10 years. So with that, I will thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council, for the privilege to work in your community. It was a pleasure, and we are happy to answer any questions that you or council may have.
Okay, thank you, Terry and Tracy, for this report, very in-depth report. I guess the good news is that according to your survey, the majority of people are satisfied with the Parks and Rec that we have and available in the township. There's always areas we can improve, and certainly we'll be looking at that going forward in the next 10 years. But I will open it up to council if any has any questions or comments on the report. Dominique?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to our consultants. So thank you very much for, as the mayor said, a very comprehensive report, but also very, very clear, very well laid out, and very practical. So I think to go from a report like this to an implementation, the way you have it laid out is very useful. So thank you for that. My next comment, I guess, is more for staff. I would say that, so this plan is obviously from one specific perspective of, Parks and Rec. And as you know, we have other studies like the facility studies, like the services in Springfield and our official plan. So to me, it's not just Port Bruce who needs a holistic approach, is the entire township. So this gives us one specific perspective to add, combine, and integrate, especially with all the other studies. So to that end, just so that we are very, very clear in our resolutions that are being proposed, I think the third one, I think where it says something to the effect of that staff address the master plan, that could be interpreted different ways, at least to me. I would be more comfortable to say that staff be directed to consider the master plan recommendation as part of all planning, annual, long-term, operational, and strategic. So essentially replace address with consider. Thank you.
Through your worship, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think I tend to agree with your comments. I think the recommendations are such that I think we can accept some revised wording to that third recommendation or that third resolution statement. But I think staff are aware that we do have a number of studies and reports and various lenses looking at our township at the same time, and we need to take a step back and look at all of these recommendations, making sure that they don't overlap or conflict with each other. So I don't disagree with your comments. And if that's council's wish to move forward, I don't think staff will have any opposition to that.
Any other questions for either Terry or Tracy? None. Well, thank you for the report, and we'll let you listened to the response from the council, but I need a mover and seconder. Report number PW 2157 entitled Comprehensive Park and Rec Master Plan be received, and the council endorse the attached Comprehensive Parks and Recreational Master Plan prepared by McQueen Galloway Associates and GSP Group in principle or as amended, and that staff be directed to consider the Comprehensive Park and Recreational Master Plan recommendations within their annual business plan over the next 10 years for future council approval, and that staff be directed to update the township's long-term capital forecast for future consideration by the Budget Committee/Council. Mover and seconder. Moore and Widner, all in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you, Terry and Tracy. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah. I don't know if that's on our end or her end, but that needs to be improved. Okay, now we got Mandy Murphy on Zoom.
Hi there.
There she
Can you
is.
hear me okay?
Yes, we can. You've got the
Excellent.
floor. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you on behalf of my community out in Crosley-Hunter. And thank you all for what you do. I can only imagine how difficult your jobs are sometimes when you're trying to make decisions in the public eye and not be able to please everyone. So thanks for taking that on. My goal here today is to outline some of the concerns that we have as a community. And so safety concerns on the highway for pedestrians. I'm aware that concerns have been brought up in the past, and I would like us to revisit what's happening out here because there are a number of changes that have occurred in the last few years that I think warrant a review. And for that reason, I thank you for inviting us here. So I'm going to take you back in time a little bit. When I was in grade 5 or 6, I grew up in this little hamlet, and I did a project, an old school poster board project on our little community of Crosley-Hunter. My grandfather was the Reeve, actually at the time, Clarence Wilsey. So I interviewed him. And as you can see, here is a picture of the original school. And I think at the bottom, can you all see this?
Yes.
And then at the bottom is the original church. And so these buildings were built after enough people settled in this area to warrant a place for learning and worship. And a lot of these families are still in this area. So it's a good place to be for sure, for work and for to raise families. Okay, so I know you've read the report, so I'm going to try to be really succinct here. One of the changes that has occurred in the last few years is an increase in children living particularly right on this corner. And I know that you all had access to the map that I drew all over. And so we have about 44 individuals, and 37% are children under the age of 15. And most of those children are under the age of 8. So that's pretty new. Another change is an additional house that was built, which kind of extends the built up area, and it extends the amount that pedestrians are walking on the highway, children and elders, and also biking on the highway to get to neighboring homes for work and for exercise and for leisure. And our speed limit is 80. And when people drive 80, it is very, very fast to share the road with children and anyone who is walking. You feel like you're going to get kind of pushed over a little bit. But as we know, on these country roads, most people don't travel 80, most people travel 90 or 100, and it's really easy to do that. And it just does not give commuters a chance to stop if there's something unexpected. And we know that with children and with farm vehicles, there are surprises that come up. We know that in the past, there has been a lot done to review the speed here. And we think that even if people drove 80, the speed sharing with bikers and walkers is still unsafe. We also know that walking and biking to where we want to go these days is not only better for our own health, but it's also better for the environment. And that all these little changes that our small communities can do add to great changes. The other concern is the higher traffic at the corner. Dorchester Side Road was paved and it's a really lovely road to drive on. And when you stop at that sign, if you actually stop and look left and right onto Crosley Hunter, there are, and I know this has been reviewed, but if you do it, you will see that there are slight blind spots. And so when I turn left to go home, I may not see a car coming, but by the time I turn, I see a car right on my tail. And then I'm turning into my driveway. So that is a concern. And in 2018, there was a major accident that resulted in a transport truck rolling onto a lawn, thankfully not a lawn that a child was playing on or someone was working in. But that is the other concern, is that when vehicles leave the road in our little hamlet, they go into our yards and into our houses and into our fields. And it really is just not safe. So one of these things alone, we feel like is not maybe enough to warrant change. And to, ask of you to collaborate with us, but we think all these layers, all these children, and people don't know all of the children that live in this community, and we probably don't want them to for safety reasons that we've already kind of addressed through email. But we've got children, we have a busy corner, we've got some blind spots, we've got lots of houses, we have community events, and we have farms. We have tractors, we have grain transport trucks, and that is what we're known for. And that part is good. I like to eat, you like to eat. We need tractors to be safe. The other thing we're observing are that people more than ever seem to be in a rush. And so they see the tractors. This is not new knowledge. And they're passing the tractors. So then you add the layers of bikers and children and blind spots, and you have a recipe for a potential major tragedy. So the other change is that our school has at least doubled in population over the last few years and will continue to grow because we're extending to grade 8, which I think is a wonderful thing for our families. However, it means that we are seeing constant traffic. We are seeing the buses. We are seeing families multiple times a day driving their children to and from school. This is new with the pandemic, but also picking up in the middle of the day. And this is all wonderful. We just know that parents are stressed. These parents are, I was out videotaping actually the speeders, and I saw people on their cell phones. I see people with their head turned talking to their children. And I think that we need to help people slow down because we're going to speed. We're all going to speed. But if we're speeding in a 50 zone and going 60, we still have time to stop. If we're speeding in an 80, we're going 90 or 100 and we don't have time to stop, especially if we're looking at our phone or the glare of the sun is in our eyes. We're seeing speeding everywhere. It's all over the news. And I think, and it's just going to keep happening until we can help people slow down. So the great thing is that we can be so proactive with resolving this in a way that I think will work for the township and work for our community and people traveling through our community, because we know that people need to get where they're going. And I think there's a lot of stress on getting there fast, but if we can help them slow down, they just need to leave their house 5 minutes earlier and they will get there safely. And we will be in our communities working and playing safely. I know you've read all this, so I don't want to go over every single point. I guess at this time, I'm wondering if you have any feedback for us or any questions.
Okay, well, thank you for your presentation, Mandy. And certainly your concerns are our concerns. We want to have the safety of the residents as well as the children there is front and foremost. So is there any questions for Mandy that anyone has any questions? Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Mandy. Yeah, Mandy, your problems are the same all over our township, unfortunately, but we kind of tend to agree if we can get it knocked down somewhat, it may get them down from 100 down to 75 or 80. That's just the reality of it, whether we like it or not. I'd like to see maybe our staff relook at this again, come up with some recommendations, but none of us are traffic specialists. We can throw something at it, but last time we did that down with the school, it wasn't well received. They tore our signs down. So if that would be the wish of council, I think that would be my opinion. We have the staff look at it and come back with a recommendation. And I know we have the one on Van Patter line, and that's subject to budget too. So this stuff all costs us money. So let's have a look at it and see what we can do to do it right.
Any other questions or comments from Mandy? See, now there is a recommendation from staff, Mandy, that you might be interested in. A mover and second of the presentation received from Mandy Murphy on behalf of the residents across the Hunter line regarding the traffic concerns on crossing Hunter line at Dorchester Road be received, and that presentation be referred to municipal staff for report back to council at a future meeting. Mover, Lewis and Widner, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mandy.
So I'm sorry, I'm new to this process. Can someone please clarify what that means for me?
That means that we're going to turn it over to staff, and then staff are going to come back at our next meeting with a recommendation on how we can bring traffic calming to Crossley Hunter.
Thank you. May I just say one more thing?
Sure.
If at all possible, would you consider some community input in that, so that the boundaries that are included encompass all the homes that are constantly back and forth?
Certainly, we'll refer that to staff, and they will be in touch with you, the folks right in Crossley Hunter. Dominique, you had a question?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to clarify your statement versus the resolution, because the resolution, I think, suggests a future meeting, not the next meeting. So I just want to manage expectations. I think it's important for staff to, once again, integrate like road safety audits that we probably have on file, consider other recommendations in other areas where there are concerns, so that, again, we're not responding to all of these in a sort of piecemeal approach. So it's a more coherent approach across the township, because as the mayor said, it is overall an important issue for all of the hamlets. And then that dovetails with our budget process. So I don't think we can, I don't think we know exactly what date, but I would suspect that it is a future meeting, and it should include additional community input.
Thank you. Do you have a ballpark approximation of a timeline?
Through you, Your Worship, yes. We do have our Director of Public Works on a parental leave at the moment, so I'm thinking that something in the early new year might be appropriate, where we can be able to focus and discuss these options with your community.
Thank you. And this is my last thing I would like to say. Our vision is your vision. On your website, you highlight find tranquility in Malahide by land or water, travel our back roads and our charming villages. There's an abundance of attractions that will enrich your visit, a community rooted in rich heritage. And we feel like we have an opportunity to collaborate with you to to put the history of Crosley Hunter back out there for people to enjoy, while keeping everyone safe. So thank you again for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mandy. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
All right, Jeff, you're next with the emergency management icebreaking.
Your worship, the report has been circulated there, and just wondering if there's any other questions on that.
Questions for Jeff on the icebreaking? Seeing none. Mover and second, report number F21-14 entitled Emergency Management Icebreaking Service be received. Malahide Township, as the benefiting municipality, does hereby accept the quotation submitted by Lamers Excavating to provide icebreaking service in Port Bruce from January 1 to March 31st, 2022. And that the long arm excavator will be on site in Port Bruce within 1 hour of the time of notification from January 1 to March 31st, 2022, with a working hourly rate of $190 per hour. Did you have a question, Jess? Go ahead. Your mic, Jess.
Hello?
Yep.
I noticed that we're going to be charged $190 for a move-in, but if we have, like in the past years, the ice has come and then it's gone out and we've had to have the backhoe in. Is it going to cost us $190 every time we move it, or just one case of $190?
It's $190 per hour, but Jeff can probably expand on that. Jeff?
Councilor Jelinski, it's $190 per hour. There's no move-in and move-out costs for this at all. It's just the straight hourly rate, that's it.
Starting at the time that he leaves home?
That's correct.
The benefit of this one, Chester, from previous years is that we were paying standby, and now it's to our benefit and his benefit that it's not there, and then he doesn't have to worry about being vandalized or anything. And like he says, he can be there within the hour. And certainly there's always, the Conservation Authority always notifies us a day ahead when there's potentially any problem. So I don't think there's going to be an issue with him arriving on time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Jeff? Mark? We've got a report on the ice breaking, but okay. Mover and second, report number F21-14 entitled Emergency Management Icebreaking Service be received. Malahide Township, as the benefiting municipality, is hereby accept the quotation submitted by Lamers Excavating to provide icebreaking services in Port Bruce from January 1 to March 31st, 2022, and that the long arm excavator be on site in Port Bruce within 1 hour of the notification from January 1 to March 31st, 2022, with a working hourly rate of $190 per hour. Lewis and Widner, all in favor? Carried. Do you have a question, Mark?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Jeff. Jeff, our emergency services has some pretty tough calls lately, and all our emergency services that are involved with these kind of things. We do appreciate what they do. It's a tough thing to be doing, and hopefully things get better and we get through this kind of stuff. But it's been bad for even the whole area. I mean, we're kind of one weekend after the other. So just let them know we appreciate what they do and thank them very much for what they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Widmer. I will pass on your remarks to the firefighters.
Okay, next item on the modernization program.
Thank you, Your Worship. So council will recall approving a study for a potential shared building planning and bylaw enforcement service, and this would be funded 75% through the province's modernization funding. What I'm looking at here is, in order to study a potential service like that, it would ultimately need to result in two municipalities getting together. So I think what I'm looking for in this study, before we go forward with such exploration, that we make sure that we have at least the blessing of one of our neighboring municipal councils, not particularly their CAO or other staff, but their councils want to explore this endeavor. So if we have a council resolution from another municipality that they are willing to explore this with us, it's not to say that they would contribute to the cost of the study. That's already been determined, but at least we know we have a willing partner, or at least one. So I think my staff report isn't detailing too much. The details of the program have been ironed out, but just looking for some council resolutions from our neighboring partners.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Questions for Adam on this? And potentially, who are we looking at on an overall scope?
So this recommendation came out of our service delivery review, and it's been what this study would look at is further refinement. In the service delivery review, it looked at an East Elgin planning bylaw and planning service potentially. So that East Elgin would be Elmer, the town of Elmer, municipality of BAM, and our township.
Okay, questions for Adam? Basically, this is just an exploratory to see if our neighbors are interested, and if they are, then we'll move forward, and he'll bring it back to council. Mover and Seconder report number CAO 21-15 entitled Second Follow-Up Report, Municipal Modernization Program Intake 2 be received for information. Township CAO be directed to formally issue written correspondence to the Council of the Municipality of BAM and the Town of Aylmer, seeking the respective willingness to explore a possible development approval service business plan and electronic processing through the province's Municipal Modernization Program Intake 2. Mover and seconder, Galinsky and Lewis, all in favor? Carried. Next, we have correspondence, and there's 5 items. Anyone wish to make comment or support for any of the 5 items on correspondence? Chester?
Mayor Manel, do we have any schools in Malahide being used for voting?
I don't know. Adam? Or Allison?
Through you, worship, no, because not that we are aware of at this point, but because we are doing the internet telephone voting, there should not be the need for any schools from us unless outside applicants are warranted, because they don't have those facilities available within their townships.
Thank you.
No burning issues. A motion to receive and file, 1 through 5. Widner and Moore, all in favor? Carried. Is there anything under other business before we go to bylaws? None. Mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-64, being a bylaw to provide for drainage works on the Candy Drain, branch number 4. We read a 3rd time, finally passed and properly signed and sealed. Cerna and Jaguar, all in favor? Carried. And mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-65, being a bylaw to provide for the drainage work on the Simpson Drain. Reassessment be read a 3rd time, finally passed and properly signed and sealed. Lewis, Galinsky, all in favor? Carried. You get Max back in, Cecil, if you don't mind. And mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-79, being bylaw to enter an agreement with Kettle Creek Landscaping Limited for community facility and municipal sidewalk winter maintenance, be given a 1st, 2nd, 3rd reading, properly signed and sealed. Cerna and Widner, all in favor? Carried. And mover and seconder, the council will move into closed session at 8:21. Pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, discuss the following. 1, labor relations or employee negotiations relating to public works. And 2, labor relations or employee negotiations relating to building, planning, bylaw services. Moore and Serna, all in favor, carried. During the closed session, the council provided direction to municipal staff regarding labor relations or employee negotiations relating to public work and relating to building, planning, bylaw services, and there's nothing further to report on either matter. And mover and seconder that bylaw number 21-84 being a confirmatory bylaw be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Serna and Moore, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. And mover and seconder council adjourn its meeting at 8:47. To meet again on November 18th, 2021 at 7:30. Linsky and Widner, all in favor? Carried.